This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to All Have Another Podcast with Lindsay Hine. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm so grateful you are here today. Today, you are listening to episode 386, and my guest is Stephen Haas. Stephen is an agent for Total Sports. He's actually the director of operations. He's also the head coach and founder of Dark Sky Distance, sponsored by Under Armour. Before diving into being an agent and a coach himself, he was a professional athlete and represented by Total Sports. He ran for Indiana University, where he was a 3-time All-American. He also ran in the 10,000 meters at the 2008 Olympic trials and ran in the 2012 Olympic trials in the marathon. He is an agent to many pro runners, including Molly Seidel, who is an Olympic bronze medalist in the marathon. In this episode, we learn about the agent and the coaching side of things, and we get a little update on what's going on with the Dark Sky Distance team. All right, and this episode of the podcast is supported by Previnex. This is where I get all of my multivitamins and supplements. They are clinically effective to promote health, longevity, performance, and they have a product called Joint Health Plus. If you are looking for some protection of your joints that is comprehensive and complete, that will give you relief, check out the Joint Health Plus. It provides comfort and flexibility. I take it every day. I actually also take their probiotics, their multivitamins, and my family uses their protein powder. Their protein powder is plant-based, it is vegan, and they have chocolate and vanilla flavors. You can just shake it up with water and drink it after a workout, which is what I often do. Take that and a banana, boom, protein, carbs, or you can make it into a delicious smoothie, which is what I do with my kids. And for friends listening, you can go to Previnex.com, use the code ANOTHER, and you will get 15% off your first order. Go check out Previnex. They are doing great things for health around the world. All right, friends, if you enjoy this podcast, leave us a rating and review. We are giving away a pair of Gooder sunglasses every month, and all you have to do is leave a rating and review. There aren't a ton coming in, so your chances are high. So just go to iTunes, leave a rating and review, or Spotify. You can only leave ratings there. I will draw from the ratings and reviews on iTunes, plus anybody who emails me and lets me know that they did it. Lindsay@sandyboyproductions.com. All right, friends, I really, really hope you enjoy getting to know Stephen and learning all about the agent and coaching side of things here. Enjoy my conversation with Stephen. Okay, today on the podcast, we have Stephen Haas on the show. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Appreciate you having me.
Okay, look, where are you sitting right now? There are so many boxes behind you.
This is the storage unit. Now, this is my office. I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona. Just got back from U.S. Champs last night, and I am in the process of buying a house right now. So, my girlfriend is basically telling me I have to save every box. So it's just piling up. So, yeah.
I was like, are you sleeping in your office then? What's going on with the boxes? Okay, cool. Are you like closing soon?
March 9th. Yeah, so very soon.
That is exciting. Okay, that means you're here to stay in Flagstaff.
I'm here to stay in Flagstaff. Yeah, I'm excited to move. It's something I've been wanted more property, more land, and get out of town a little bit. So this is a good setup. I'm looking forward to getting out there, and yeah, it's been a long process. Been 2 years in looking for a house. So yeah, I'm excited.
Man, it is like buying a house is stressful. I don't care how you do it. It is a stressful situation.
Yeah, it has been very stressful. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being done with that. Yeah.
How long have you been in Flagstaff?
7 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And from before you were in Flagstaff, where did you come from?
Bloomington, Indiana.
Okay. So you were in Bloomington that long?
Yeah, 15 years. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize that. Okay.
I think I'm the longest stayed Hoosier in Bloomington. Yeah, I stayed for a long time. I obviously ran there for 5 years, and stayed an additional 10 when I was running myself. And then obviously when I started working for Total Sports, I stayed there and coached a post-collegiate group there called Team Indiana Elite. And so, yeah, I had roots in Bloomington pretty deep.
Okay, we have to get into Bloomington a little bit because I'm from Bloomington, but you're
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're originally from North Carolina though, and now I live in North Carolina. So where are you from?
Wow. Okay, originally I'm from Huntersville, North Carolina.
What's the closest big city? I'm
not Charlotte. I mean, it's
Charlotte. Okay,
Charlotte. Yeah, suburbs of Charlotte, basically. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm in Raleigh. So
okay.
Yeah, and so but I grew up in Bloomington, went to IU. Then I lived in Indianapolis like my entire adult life until this past summer. So.
Oh, I had no idea. Awesome. Yeah, fellow Hoosier.
Yeah, listen, we have some connections here. Sean Threewitz, do you know him?
Oh yeah. He was on the team with me. He was he was a lot younger than I was. I think I was actually off the team by the time he was on the team. I was a assistant coach for 1 year.
Okay.
And then we had a coaching change, and yeah, so I helped Robert Chapman for 1 year as an assistant recruiting coordinator. And then, when Randy Heisler left and Ron Helmer came in, Ron got rid of the whole staff. And so I was done with my coaching and focused all on running at that point. But yeah, I remember Sean. Yeah, I remember Sean. I can't remember exactly who his class was. I think it was another couple in-state kids that year, but he was one that I really liked. He was a nice kid.
He's fun. He's one of my husband's really good friends. So I remember he was on the team, but then Team Indiana Elite. Okay. I ran in Little 50. Do you remember Little 50 at IU?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Now listeners might know what the Little 500 is because that's like the huge cycling event. But for a little bit of time, IU had the Little 50. Yeah, and so, and I ran it with like a couple of girls that I ran high school cross country with. And there was one team that beat us. And you know what team that was, right?
No idea.
I think it was some, it might have been the Indiana Elite. Would they have been able to compete in the college one?
We had sort of some remote women at one time that I think only one lived with us. The big perk of Team Indiana Elite is we had housing on campus,
which
was a huge perk. It was what we kind of attracted people who, were coming out of school who couldn't get contracts. They could come move to Bloomington, have access to facilities, have coaching, have equipment. We did some fundraising and stuff for travel and altitude camps and whatnot. But the biggest perk was housing. But at that time, we just couldn't seem to attract a lot of women to come to the group. And so we always had tons of men who wanted to come. And I remember we had one female living in with us at the time. And I'm pretty sure we had 3 or 4 that lived in like Indy or relatively close. So, we kept the Team Indiana Elite vibe, with Indiana people. But I don't know I can't remember 100% if we ran that or not. I remember there was talk about it. I remember that I think it was actually kind of organized through the local running store that was in town. And they got sort of some of their people and some of our people together for a team.
That's probably what it was.
I believe that's what it was. But
I'm
not 100%. I know we didn't run a guys team. Or men's team that year, but I do remember the talk of it and whatnot. But that's I don't even know if they still have that event.
I don't think they do.
Okay.
And nobody could compete with your team, by the way.
Yeah.
They were like, "What are we doing?" I just remember one of the girls was about to go run the Boston Marathon, and I was like, "You're running the Boston Marathon?" Like it was so prestigious and crazy to me that a college student would go run the Boston Marathon. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about working with Total Sports. I know you were repped by them before you worked for them. So talk about your relationship with them.
Yeah, it's been a long time now. I signed with Total Sports when I came out of college. That was 2006, I believe. 2005, maybe 2006. Yeah, signed. Chris Lane was my agent, and he negotiated a contract for me to run for New Balance. I had a good relationship with New Balance for I think 6 years. And, Chris got me into races. I went to Europe a little bit. The first couple of years, went to Europe and raced. really kind of started more focusing on the road sort of the last couple of years of my contract. And, Chris was always somebody that, was good. I think exactly what an agent, is needed for, springboard on ideas of what I wanted to do for racing, ways that I could make money in the sport and keep going. I was on a very developmental deal. I wasn't getting rich off the contract. So, but I was very happy to have the support and have a group of people to train with. And yeah, Chris was, just a really good sounding board. I always got on really well with him. He knew the distance running world, knew where races were going to be, knew where things were being set up, knew what road races to go to optimize, trying to, earn money and optimize my contract and things like that. So yeah, we just had good communication, good relationship. So when I had an injury towards the end of my career, pretty much what ended my career, I guess. My own running was I had a torn calf muscle when I was training for Chicago Marathon, and that was in the fall, and I was going to be out all the way basically through the summer. My contract was coming to an end, and Chris reached out and said, "Hey, what do you think about helping us out as we get ready for a summer of track racing in Europe?" And I think at the time, Total Sports was growing. It was a pretty new agency. Chris had worked for another agency for a while and had split off, and started Total Sports, and it was growing, and it was growing fast. And he just needed some more help. And basically my first initial role was to go to Europe and help support the athletes that were going to Europe. And just previous summer to that, I was one of those athletes. I'd gone over and raced and did a couple 5Ks and kind of stayed in Leuven and did some things in the European circuit. So I kind of knew what was going on. I'd done it for a couple years, and I knew what could be better, and didn't mind giving my own advice, or giving my advice on how we could make it better for the athletes and whatnot. And did that throughout the summer. And then by the fall of that year, Chris was like, I want you to come on full time and help out more and do domestic races and things like that. And then accompany the athletes to different events and whatnot. And so I kind of did that through the fall. And by like probably the winter, he basically was like, what do you think about being an agent yourself? And, even taking this a step further. And at that time I was all for it. So that's kind of how the relationship grew. And Chris, he's been a big supporter and somebody I would say has helped me tremendously be in the position I am now. And still obviously work for him. Our roles are probably a little bit different than they were back then, but it's certainly been a good relationship, and I owe a lot to Chris.
So Total Sports, though, do they just focus on runners? The website has other sports too, right?
Yeah, we do. We have other stuff. Yeah. So I only work within track and field, and running, road racing, obviously. But there is a baseball side of the company. That's probably maybe only 4 or 5 years old, but growing extremely fast as well. I think there's 3 or 4 baseball agents now, or 2 or 3 baseball agents now. And then Chris oversees that as well. And then we have women's soccer as well, which I think is, I want to say maybe 2 years old. It's sort of still in the very, very developmental stages of getting going. But I met the head of women's soccer this year at our fall meeting. But again, I don't really have anything to do with that. There is a sort of another area that we've really started getting going now too, and that's coaches, representing coaches. Okay. So NCAA coaches, professional coaches, and just negotiating their contracts as well. And I have a little bit involvement in that, but not directly. So obviously there's going to be coaches relationships and whatnot that I've established over the last couple of years working, within track and field. But yeah, it's not necessarily my main focus either right now.
I think it's so cool when an athlete who's like walked through the process of needing an agent and going through that becomes the agent. How important do you think these developmental programs and like, what did you call your contract? Was more so like
pennies? I don't know. No, it was.
But like that support,
developmental contract. It was. Hey, this is going to provide you enough to continue to develop in the sport and see if you can make it. And honestly, those you never know, right? You never know what contracts are going to, small deals like that can turn into, you know, great contracts, and people can really. Total Sports that was like almost like the foundation of Total Sports. When Chris split and started Total Sports, like some of those first contracts, like myself and the Jeffersons. I mean, even Nick Simmons. Like Nick Simmons' first contract was a developmental contract. And that's a success story right there. How it grew and grew and grew over time. And if you can put somebody in a good position or a good situation, provide some financial resources, but then also provide support, races, everything that kind of goes into developing an athlete, then they can see a lot of success. And as they get more resources because of that success, it just snowballs. So, that's sort of how Total Sports even just kind of started and got going. Is we took athletes that other people didn't really want because they weren't big money contracts, and we developed those athletes and helped those athletes develop into big contracts and successful athletes.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I imagine it's like disheartening or like intimidating to come out of school, know that you have this gift and this talent, but you're not getting the offers right off the table of these big contracts that you can live off of, and to have a group that comes beside you and says, hold on, let's do this one step at a time. That's so important.
Yeah, for sure. And we still try to do that. I mean, obviously now we're probably one of the bigger agencies in the US, and we have a lot of big contracts, but we still try to have those developmental contracts. We still try to get people, out of college that, we can look at, me or Chris can look at, or Natalia can look at it and say, we think that person has potential in the sport, and can do some big things and can make teams and do, be successful in the sport. So, I think all of those things are important. It's important to have the big contracts and keep the business floating and keep the bills paid. But also it's important to take on athletes that, you might not make money off of right away. And, but if you can, again, help them and put them in a position. And if you buy into that athlete and think that athlete can be successful, then it ultimately pays out. And I think we've done it. That's one thing that I think I learned really well from Chris. Like, he had a good eye to pick those athletes, right? He signed Nick Simmons when, not a whole lot of people were signing, and he signed Sean and John and me and some other people that, I think, he took chances on people. And so, for me to kind of learn a little bit from him in the first couple of years. And I think I've done a really good job with it as well. Pick people that, again, not necessarily a lot of agents recruited or try to sign, and, got people on $20,000 contracts, $30,000 contracts, and we're able to work our way up to, much more successful and bigger deals.
What do you look for in someone who might not have like NCAA wins or, some big accomplishments like that, but you just see like there's something there that they're going to do something really good?
Yeah, I think everybody can sort of like see what talent looks like or see what potential looks like from, there's a lot of little things out there that, I think if you watch athletes and you can tell, hey, this person might be successful. But I think one of the biggest things is getting to know the athlete too, knowing if they're driven, knowing that, how mature they are for, where they are in the sport, right? And how much they know about the sport. And I think one of that's something that I think we've done a really good job in, is getting to know some of these young athletes that, again, might not necessarily have like the big accolades or not all the agents are going after in the recruiting, or all the shoe companies are offering deals for right away. But getting to know them, knowing if they have, that drive, that passion, love for the sport, are willing to put in the hard work, things like that. Like that mixed with, hey, I can tell this person is he's got some talent. I know the program. I know they're not overtrained. All these little things. It's all pieces of the puzzle, right? And I think it's much more complicated than what a lot of people think. And a lot of people think it's just, hey, Cole Harker, that kid's pretty good. You should recruit him. Well, yeah, that's one way to do it. But you're not going to sign you're not going to get the Cole Harker every single year. So you got to find the the guys that still have potential to make teams and do really well. And yeah, it's something that, yeah, I think I learned really well from Chris, and me and him continue to have conversations about people all the time. But yeah, I think I've got a pretty good eye for it now.
What's Chris's backstory? Like, what was he doing before he was your agent?
Yeah, so he worked for another agency.
Okay.
So he was a college athlete as well. He was a sprinter. He was a hurdler. And then yeah, he went right into working for another agency and worked there for I can't even tell you how long before he split off and started Total Sports. So he's been in this game for a long time. And yeah, he coaches as well. So me and him have very similar stories in the sense that he's very passionate about coaching. Loves it, has a very small NAI school that he coaches out of Tennessee. And then he also coaches some pros as well.
Oh.
So, yeah, he coaches Abby DiAgostino, Cooper. Sorry, Abby Cooper now. But yeah, he's got a small group of pros there that train with him out of Johnson City as well. So yeah, he loves the coaching side of things too. I don't think he would ever want to give that side of things up as well. I think he likes. We're sort of different in the sense that like he's very passionate about taking somebody who's like a 18-minute 5K, to a 17-minute 5K, where I think my passions more lie in the, taking somebody who's like a 15:30 5K and getting her to a 14:30 5K, something like that. But at the same time, I massive respect for, somebody who gets so passionate about, all levels of the sport.
Hey everybody, a quick break to thank ZocDoc for supporting this episode of the podcast. No one knows what you're looking for in a doctor better than you, and no one's better at giving you the tools to find the perfect doctor than ZocDoc. The people who created ZocDoc found the major pain points in healthcare, all the things that weren't working, and said enough. Then they made booking a great doctor surprisingly pain-free. With ZocDoc, you can find doctors that are in your insurance network, putting you on the path to see the doctors who are right for you and not wasting any time figuring out who's in network and who's not. ZocDoc is a free app that shows you doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. Go to ZocDoc.com/another and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/another, ZocDoc.com/another. All right, friends, back to my conversation. Yeah, do you feel like you kind of just have freedom to create whatever you want to do as far as what you do with your team and how you recruit people? I mean, it seems like a very entrepreneurial type of work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have. So there's sort of, I guess, two parts of that. With Total Sports, I have freedom to recruit athletes that I want to add to our roster of athletes. I've certainly learned over the last how many years I've worked for Total now. I can't even remember, like 10 years now. But how long I've been with Total, I've sort of learned there's areas that you can have more athletes and areas you need to have less athletes, and balancing a roster is very important. So, again, I'm not out recruiting every single athlete, that I think is going to make money, right? Like I'm recruiting specific areas within our team of athletes right now that I feel like can be, beneficial, and we can support those athletes very well, but we also don't take away from the athletes that we have right now, if that makes sense. And then within Dark Sky and the coaching and having the group here, very entrepreneurial. I kind of got this off the ground, and it's been a passion project of mine, I guess you could say, as I want to see it be very successful. And yeah, it's another way to provide more opportunities for people coming out of school, and more opportunities for people to be successful and using altitude and I think we've built a foundation to have a really good team here. And I think we have all the resources and everything we need. And it didn't come like that. It wasn't just like, hey, Under Armour, write this check and we build this team. There was a lot of years of this thing getting going. And a lot of people don't know, a lot of my own money went into it to kind of get it going as well. And now I feel like we're in a really good place to bring in really good athletes and have those athletes be very successful here.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Dark Sky a little bit. I don't know if you know this. I had Shayla on the podcast right when you guys started, and I know she's now back to coaching again in California. But just give us a little update. People, and I interviewed Emily Durgin before when she was on the team, and I've interviewed her after since she's been killing her half marathon. So let's get an update from you.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of Emily, obviously a weird situation last year with our footwear issue. And we had to, that put me in a very awkward situation. I think the one thing I can say and be very confident about was the athletes were always my first and foremost concern. Right. And so athletes like Rachel and Emily and Taryn, if I could come up with more opportunity for them to go elsewhere that, again, they didn't have to worry about the shoes at the time. If they could get better deals, if they could make their situation better for them individually, that was my main focus. And Under Armour was very understanding of that as well, So, that was a hard time for us as a group in the sense of we had worked really hard to, develop athletes like Emily and athletes like Taryn to get them to the position they were in. I mean, before, I'm not saying anything negative towards those athletes, but they didn't really have other options at the time.
Sure.
Emily was with New Balance Boston and she didn't have a contract. So bringing her here and getting a contract for her and obviously trying to help her develop. Taryn, sort of the same situation, and that's sort of really why I was passionate about starting the group, was I knew athletes like that could be successful if they had more resources and if they had the ability to grow as athletes. And that takes time and it takes effort and it takes, again, resources. It takes money, making sure that these athletes are in a good position to train, making sure they have what they need, massage, physio, things like that are really going to help elevate an athlete. So yeah, it was hard for me to see athletes that we had invested in, leave to go to, other opportunities. But at the same time, that was what's best for them. It was best for Emily to take, to get another contract and have shoes right away, continue to race on the road. And Taryn as well. We had a lot of issues with footwear with her and some injuries and having some plated shoes was important for her right away. And so, yeah, it was a tough time and it was a tough year, but I did stay confident in Under Armour as a brand to also get where we needed to go. And right now we're in a good position. We have spikes, we have flats, we have racing shoes that are very competitive. And it took a much larger investment from Under Armour as a company to catch up, and all my interactions with them throughout the whole process and their sports marketing team, their footwear team, they just said, hey, we're invested. We want to make it happen. We understand that, we might lose some people right now, and that's okay. If you stick with us and you continue to have this group, we will invest in the areas we need to invest on so we can continue to do what the vision of the group was. And that is to, again, just make athletes better and put athletes in a good spot.
I mean, that's really cool. And I think Emily would say the same thing, right? She would say I'm so grateful for that opportunity I had to develop with them. But it's those things needed fixed. So you got to let those people go, which I'm sure felt sort of heartbreaking. Oh man.
It was hard, yeah.
Yeah. It was hard. I see what's happening here with this athlete and how much development has already happened. And you want to be a part of that. Go ahead.
At the same time, I was very happy for them
too,
because it's sort of a lot of people were like, oh, does that upset you? And I'm like, honestly, it really doesn't. It makes me feel good that we were able to take somebody like that and help them become an athlete that other brands really wanted and were willing to pay more and more and invest into more. And so for me, it never really came off as like a negative, like it never, yeah, I felt good that, those athletes could come here, could be successful, and then I could help them go get another situation that was even better.
Yeah.
So, but it also makes me really, look at everything and say, okay, what can we do better? What can we do better to, if we're going to stick with this situation, we're going to continue with the group, we're going to continue with the relationship with Under Armour. What can we do better to again, make this situation really good for athletes that are here?
That's cool. Yeah. And I mean, the thing is like, you're always a part of that story, like that will always be such a big piece of Emily's story or Taryn's story.
Yeah.
Even if it was a short period of time. So like, what does need to happen? Because like the shoes, like clearly they're good on the track. It's the problem when the women are doing like the longer marathon distance type stuff?
Last year at the time, we were in a much different situation. We didn't have a track spike. We didn't have a plated track spike. We didn't have a plated road shoe. So yeah, we were just behind in sort of everything. So yeah, we really needed the investment from Under Armour as a brand to develop that product. And yeah, that takes a lot of money, right? So I don't even know how much other brands had invested previous years to that, and now we got to catch up.
Yeah.
So it probably took way more financial investment. And I've heard numbers and whatnot, but yeah, we had to have that commitment from the brand, and they've really, really stepped up. And I think our road shoe is just as competitive with, obviously B has been wearing it, JT's been wearing it. We have guys that are running successfully in it. And yeah, I obviously Wayne wore it all fall and ran really, really well in the road stuff that she did. So yeah, it gives me a lot of confidence that we're going in the right direction. And then now we have these spikes that have yeah, I think are competitive with what else is out there right now. Now we're still playing catch up. We need more. We don't have all the sizes yet. We had athletes at US Indoor this weekend that didn't have them. They're wearing old spikes. They're not in the super shoes yet, and it's coming, but it's taken longer than what any of us really wanted. But again, I'm confident that we're going to get there, and I'm hoping at some point, we don't just, hey, we needed to catch up and now we just rest on our laurels. Like, I feel like from a footwear standpoint, like, okay, we've caught up, but now we have to stay relevant. We have to keep, innovating, and we have to keep looking at what's next. And that's where I feel like we have put in place the people that are going to be important to do that, and we have footwear team, we have innovation team, we have the resources in place that we're going to stay relevant,
Okay, speaking of staying relevant, not a part of footwear though. I'm super curious your take on like social media and things like that. Just as far as like, here an athlete performs really well, they place high at a marathon major or whatever. They make the world's team, like Josette just did, for example. How much of that compared to how much of like a Steph Bruce, who is successful in her running career, but also really, really into like sharing her story on social media. Like, that's got to be really important to brands too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you'll see a mix, right? Like, there's probably some of our highest paid athletes in the sport have no social media.
I know, it's crazy.
Their performances, Galen Rupp, right? Does Galen Rupp even have Instagram? Probably not. But also at the same time, he's very relevant in the sense of his performance speaks for himself, right?
Totally.
And he's going to have massive following, and people are going to be invested in his story. And I think in terms of high school athletes, or people that again are buying product, are looking to him as somebody who yeah, you're gonna look at him and gonna look at his performance, right? So but I think there's also brands that really, really value that that interaction and the social media component of being what's the right word, vulnerable, or being able to share your story, ups and downs and everything. And if you're successful, then great. And if if things don't work out, but you've, again, been very transparent to the process, I think there's value in that too. I am sensitive to the fact that I never want performance to sort of not be valued. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I think, and there's probably brands out there that maybe wouldn't even be that interested in like a Galen Rupp because there's no social media component or there's no interaction beyond just what the performance is. But I still think that performance is very important and should be valued very highly. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with an athlete who just puts his head down, focuses completely on their own selfish endeavors to compete and perform really well, and doesn't necessarily share the story. But I also, in the same breath, I think it is important that some athletes do that, So, yeah, it's, I know I didn't give a very clear answer there, but I think that performance is also, it should always be, something that holds value to brands. Like, and I think it always will, because again, the person on the top is who people are going to look at. Right. And so, but if that person also has other components, then that's a great situation, right? Like that person can really, really monetize their career and reach a lot of different sponsors and a lot of different just avenues to make money and be successful in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when the athletes engage with the audience, with the fans that are following, it makes them feel a little more relatable. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to walk up to you and say hello to you because I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit on your social media. Yeah, I imagine that's just gotten kind of weird and different, especially people that are like phasing out, like kind of getting closer to retirement, that like social media came a little bit later, and it's like, do I have to get in that game now? Like, can we just run?
Yeah. We certainly have a lot of athletes that, are I think caught in between both worlds, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much do I invest into putting everything on social media? How much do I invest into, making sure that I'm doing all these sponsorship posts and things like that, versus how much do I focus on training and investing into my own running, so that if I'm successful there, that, all these little deals that I have that just, I have to, do all this work for, if I could just put that more of that focus into running, then it elevates me, and it probably ends up paying out better than doing all this little stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's a conversation I've had with so many of our athletes. I think a lot of people see on social media, well, this athlete promotes this company or this brand or whatever, like, I should do that. Well, should you do that? Like, is it, a $3,000 deal, a $5,000 deal? Is it worth your time to do that versus, if you just stay focused on what you're doing and you're successful, you can earn more just based off performing better, So, that's a tough one. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no, as you're talking about it, the other thing I was thinking is just like, also the constant having your phone or like your social media on you. It's like the constant internet in your face. If you are super active, it can be really exhausting. Because you're getting feedback from humans that don't really know you at all. And is that draining you? Is that draining you from like energy that you could put towards like more positive things in your life? That's what I think would be hard if you were really that serious and that dedicated and this was like your livelihood. Because, man, people are going to tell you their opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
No matter what.
Definitely. When I was coaching Ed, you wouldn't believe how many people would comment on or DM me on Instagram or comment on some of my pictures and stuff when I post of him doing a workout, of their like opinion of what he should be doing or what his training should be or what his race schedule should be. I mean, I think mainly because a couple of years ago, he was a very prominent athlete. So, and had a lot of people had seen kind of growing up through his, high school in the US and college at Oregon and everything, and always sort of been in the spotlight. So, he was one of the first bigger athletes that I coached. And you wouldn't believe how many people would just even DM me their advice and their he should be doing this or he should be doing that. And like, I couldn't imagine being a prominent athlete and
Right.
getting like Molly Seidel. Her Instagram DMs are, I mean,
I can't imagine.
thousands. Like if I think she does a good job of like pushing that stuff aside and but yeah, I couldn't imagine being engaged to all of that.
Right.
That it would be. I've run into people have come up to me, oh, I sent you a message on Instagram, or I tried to reach out to you, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like like, yeah, it's tough to sort of interact with all that and keep up with everything else that you have to do in your world.
Hey friends, a quick break here to share with you about a product I'm loving, Portland Bee Balm. Beyond the amazing quality of their balm, Portland Bee Balm is committed to creating sustainable products, which is hugely important to me. They are members of 1% for the Planet, which means they donate 1% of revenue to organizations tackling our planet's most pressing environmental issues. This is so cool. Products that are useful, natural, and add value to people's lives and the world. Portland Bee Balm provides the best hydration for your lips with clean and simple ingredients. Since I put balm on my lips multiple times throughout the day, it is very important to me that the products I'm using are clean and effective. Portland Bee Balm has so many different varieties of scents, but my favorite is the Oregon Mint. The ingredients they source and the packaging they use all support health and well-being to the environment and community. So awesome. You all can go to portlandbeebalm.com and use the code SANDYBOY for 20% off your first order. All right, friends, back to the show. Well, what are your like big hopes and dreams with Dark Sky?
Big hopes and dreams. Yeah, I just I want to continue to make this a great situation. I want to make it a situation where the top athletes from around the world desire to train here in Flagstaff and be part of the team that we're creating. So that's my goal. I want athletes to be able to come here and be successful. I want to keep it a place that is good vibes. People enjoy being here. People enjoy being around each other. Yeah, I want to make it a great training environment, and I think we're well on our way there. And yeah, I want to continue to put people on teams and help athletes reach their goals, and every athlete that comes in here has a different goal. So for me to say, our goal is to put people on track teams or world championship teams, that's to some of the athletes that come here, that's going to be their goals. To some of the athletes that come here, maybe it's, running national record in a marathon, or, running world marathon majors, or, making national records for different countries. I don't know what everybody's individual goals are, but I want to continue to focus on athletes' individual goals within a team setting, if that makes sense.
How do you like create an environment that is good times?
Yeah, I think it's important to sort of read those athletes when you recruit them here, and we've been fortunate that a lot of athletes have contacted us in the last year once we kind of got the group established again, and people knew that we were continuing with the group after this summer, and we've had a lot of athletes reach out, and I enjoy getting to know athletes and recruiting athletes and finding out if I feel like they would be a good fit for the group. And I think we operate a little different than some of the other groups. Like, I think we have a lot more, I don't know what's the right word, a lot more like individuality within the group too. We only meet 3 days a week.
Okay.
And we try to match up for workouts and long runs and things like that. But we're not meeting every single day. I want athletes to enjoy their life outside of the team as well. And Flagstaff's a great place to live. And yeah, I want them to be happy, and I don't want everybody to be on top of each other all the time. I feel like that's almost a little bit suffocating. And if there is somebody on the team that maybe your just personalities don't get along that well, if we're only meeting 3 times a week, it's nobody's bumping heads, or everybody comes to practice with the intent of being a better runner that day, and yeah, I think it's just uh, we've been fortunate to have good people, and yeah, I think recruiting athletes and getting to know them is just an important part of that. And yeah, it's so far so good. Yeah.
How much do you run these days?
Um, well, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. It really depends. Yeah, it's up and down. I probably the week before last, I probably ran 60 miles that week. But then last week, well, I lost my bag in Spokane. My bag never came back from
Oh,
London. So
it's
yeah,
annoying.
I was over in Birmingham for the Birmingham World Indoor Tour meet. We had two of our athletes run there, and I came back. My bag never made it, and so I was in Spokane without a bag the whole time. So I didn't run the stat for last week.
You didn't
Um,
just go buy a pair of shoes. You were just like, yeah, I'm
no,
done.
no. And it was a busy.
Yeah.
All camps are always busy, and there's always so much going on that honestly just didn't have time. Anyways, like
Uh-huh.
the team was there, I could have grabbed somebody's shoes and gone for a run, but
Sure.
it just, yeah, I didn't. But yeah, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. But I if I'm in flag, I run every day.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's sort of for me, it's good to get out of the house, even if it's just 30 minutes and I can just turn my phone off and get outside for a little bit. I enjoy it. And I go to all the team practices. I'll do warm ups and cool downs with the team. I always enjoy just spending a little bit more time talking and getting feedback on the workout or how it went, or even today I did the warm up with Bia and JT and the cool down with them as well. Again, just talking Gate River this weekend, talking
Mm-hmm.
just getting more feedback from them. I think it helps me as a coach just know what the athletes are thinking. So yeah, I run again. If I'm in town, I run every single day, but yeah, sometimes when you're on the road and yeah, traveling around a lot, yeah, it could be some pretty small weeks there too.
Do you ever throw down? Like, do you ever throw a workout in?
I haven't worked out in a long time. Last year during COVID, was that last year? I guess last year, I decided I was going to try to break 5 minutes in the mile.
Okay.
Going out on Lake Mary. Unfortunately, this was video too. You can probably find some footage of this, but I
Link
tore
it.
a hamstring within like 400 meters.
Oh
So
no.
that's probably the last hard. No, I did do some hills. I did. One of my women on the team was doing a hill workout, and I jumped in some hills. That was in the fall, but yeah, not no throwing down anymore. My when Rachel Snyder first moved to flag, I did almost every single workout with her. Like I was like her workout partner.
Uh-huh.
I was doing like so much with her, but yeah, it's been a while since I've been doing any sessions.
Man, Rachel Schneider, she's just killing it.
Yeah, she's doing great. Yeah, she's doing awesome. Yeah, Rachel, again, one of those success stories is like somebody came to flag on a small deal and has done,
Yeah.
done amazing. And she was part of our group, but she's always been coached by Mike. Her and Mike have a great relationship, and Mike has done awesome with her. Again, somebody I was sad to see not part of the group, but also super happy that she is now in a situation that is very good for her, and yeah, it's being rewarded for all of her hard work. Yeah.
How do you balance that with like who you're an agent to and who you coach? And like, do you ever coach someone that you're also the agent to? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody that I coach except Bia, I represent.
Okay.
And I'm totally open to coaching people that I don't represent. I think other agents probably have more of an issue with it than obviously than I do. But yeah, the Dark Sky group does not have to be people that only are represented by me. I'm completely open, and I have a good B is represented by Howie, and I have a good relationship with him, and have it's worked out really well, and I think it can work out with other athletes too. It's just I think agents have to understand that I can separate coaching an athlete and representing an athlete. And yeah, I understand that a lot of people think there's conflict of interest there, but there's only conflict of interest if you are a negative conflict of interest if you act on it. If you don't act on it in a negative way, then yeah, there's no issues.
All right. Well, let's wrap up here with the end of the podcast questions.
Okay.
What is something you've accomplished a lot professionally and personally, but and you just bought a house. What is something professionally or personally you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
That's a good question. Yeah, probably from a from a coaching and from a agent standpoint, like I would like to, represent a Olympic gold medalist. That's always been, or coach a gold medalist. That's always been something that, on the circuit, following around athletes and just seeing, the energy and excitement to have an athlete like that at meets and be able to negotiate for that athlete. I think that's awesome. Molly obviously has been super successful this year, and it's been awesome to see the energy that comes with that. The excitement, the buzz, the sponsorship opportunities that have arisen from that. A lot more work it goes into it, but at the same time, I think it's super cool. And I'd like to shoot for the highest level and try to have somebody who wins an Olympic gold. Yeah,
that's awesome. What's the best, most recent book you've read?
Oh, I don't read that much. I got to be honest.
Love it.
Podcast. I listen to some podcast, or I do listen to some books on tape. I did just listen to Roy Williams' book, Carolina basketball book on tape. So I'm from Indiana, diehard Indiana basketball. I know Indiana is a diehard basketball state, but I am from North Carolina, and I grew up a massive Tar Heels fan.
Okay.
I still support North Carolina very, very much so. I don't miss a game. I watch pretty much every game.
Okay.
So yeah, I did listen to Roy Williams' book on my phone. Yeah.
Okay. Was it good?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. I like Roy Williams. I like Hubert Davis. Again, I support the whole North Carolina basketball family.
Well, we live in Raleigh now, and so it's like people in our neighborhood are either NC State fans or UNC fans, and everybody's all in. So it's kind of nice though, because being from a basketball town.
Yeah, sitting on my desk actually right here is a replica of the Dean Smith.
Oh, he's all in, you guys.
Yeah. So this is the Dean Smith Center in Chapel Hill, but yeah, I got posters on the wall. I'm a big North Carolina basketball fan. So
that's so good. Yeah, it's fun to move from a basketball town and live in a basketball. It just feels like it's how you grew up, and Indiana very much so, but also it's very important here too. So I like that.
It's cool. Yeah, for sure.
What podcast do you listen to?
Random ones that our athletes are on. The one I listened to yesterday on the way back from Spokane, I listened to the Beer Mile podcast.
Okay.
Actually, the first time I listened to that, I'll be honest, but
who was on it?
Casey Kevelbard. He's one of our newer guys on the team.
Okay.
He was on there. He joined us in the fall this year. He had a bad U.S. championships this past weekend, but I think he's making good strides. He's somebody that I'm excited about as an athlete. He first race with us, he had about a 10-second PB in the 5K at BU, ran 13:24. Indoor 3K PB, 7:48 this year, and then also indoor 15 PB, ran 3:39 as well. So he's having a good year. It's a transition to have athletes move out to Flagstaff and train full time at altitude, and he's a guy that I see a lot of potential in. And yeah, he did the Beer Mile podcast, and I saw it on his Instagram story, so I listened to that on the flight back from Spokane yesterday.
All right, I have two last questions for you. Who's someone fun, motivating, or inspiring you would like to have coffee, tea, or cocktail with?
I could just throw it to Roy Williams, because again, I just finished his book, and I think it'd be awesome because the name of his book's Hard Work. I feel like that's my life. It's always hard work.
I kind of want to read that now.
Yeah, probably somebody within the sport that I would like to have a conversation with is probably Seb Coe. I think he's running the sport right now. I'd like to see how he envisions making the sport better and get. It's something that I always think about. I feel like I'm sort of at a lower level of trying to help make this sport better, right? And trying to help athletes get better, and how does somebody think, or what are somebody's goals at sort of the top level there, right? His goal is to make our sport better, right? So like trying to get like how does he think about our sport? How does he think things could get better? Like I would love to have a conversation with him and hear about that, and not necessarily just his ideas, but like how do you even go about thinking about that, right? And so yeah, within the sport, maybe him. Yeah.
Okay, but sorry, we're wrapping up, but now I'm super curious. What do you think needs to happen to make the sport better? Sorry,
Yeah,
that's
see,
a big question.
yeah, it's a big question. Like, and it's almost hard. It's a hard question to even like think about because there's so many little things that like I have ideas that like, we need to, even being in Spokane over the weekend, how many of our good athletes just aren't even there?
Yeah.
Like how can we incentivize athletes to run these championships, or like how can we, make these important, and just over the last couple of days too, just having conversations with some athletes who are trying to choose if they're going to run world indoor championships or whatnot. I'm like, it's a world championships. It should be important. And some people are just like, it's, outdoors more important. And believe me, I understand, I know that there's incentives, from shoe companies and incentives with contracts that make outdoor more important than indoor, but like, why are we at that? Why are we in that position? And yeah, just trying to, again, talk to somebody that's their job. How do you even begin to start thinking about how we can break this down into manageable things to make the sport better? Because yeah, I feel like right now, like, yeah, I could have ideas, but my focus and my energy has to be on, the things that I can do from my athletes from a coaching standpoint and my athletes from a representation standpoint. And believe me, that takes all of my energy and more. Yeah, from a broad governing body, broad, state of the sport, like how do you go about doing that? And yeah, I don't know. Trust me, I don't know. I would love to talk to somebody who is in a position to do those things to figure out how you start even thinking about it.
Gosh, it's kind of overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of people like you got to talk to guys like that, and yeah, it's like there's so many pieces. Well, the last question we ask everybody is, what's your last message to leave with our audience today?
Yeah, I mean, sort of maybe on the same topic is we have a great sport. We have a great, this is very, very important to a lot of people. And I just think that everybody needs to, appreciate it and love the sport and continue to invest their time, energy, and efforts into making the sport good. Because if people give up on it and aren't fans of the sport, then no matter who's in charge and who's coming up with these great ideas, we can't grow. So I appreciate people like you take the time to do these podcasts and get more people invested into the sport and more people invested into teams and athletes. And yeah, I think that helps grow the sport.
Do you think that it's getting bigger, like the fans, as far as like how many people are invested outside of the pros?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would like to think so. I think, in my world, it's a very, it's a very big and it's a very, important thing. And, I'm fortunate that I get to go to meets all over the world and see packed stadiums like Zurich and Brussels and 70 to 90,000 people cheering on, a track and field meet, and so I'm fortunate that I get to see that. Again, I know there's a lot of people who say the sport was here 10 years ago and now it's here and whatever. And I choose myself not to focus on that. I choose to sort of focus on, there is still a lot of good going on within the sport. I see the sport growing. I'm at these meets. I see fans invested. I see athletes coming up to, some of our athletes wanting to take pictures and get autographs and things like that. And, I went to the Mesa Half Marathon in Phoenix with Molly, 2 weeks ago, and the amount of attention and the amount of support, people with signs that did not know Molly, that just watch on social media and listen to podcasts that she's on and, things like that are fans of her. And to me, that's super exciting. And yeah, my message is to continue to support the sport. Yeah, I think this is certainly one way to do it.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
All right, friends, to learn more about Stephen, thank you, Stephen, for coming on the show. Go to HAAS Runs. That's Haas Runs on Instagram. You can find me personally. I'd love to connect with you. Lindsay Hine 626 over there. And Sandy Boy Productions is our network on Instagram, as well as sandyboyproductions.com is our brand new website. I guess it's a few months old now. We have some exciting news coming to Sandy Boy next week, so make sure you stay tuned and you're subscribed to this show because we are going to be dropping that news on Monday. Very excited about that. Adding maybe a new show to the network. I don't know. You'll see. To sign up for our newsletter and get these show notes delivered to your inbox every week, you can just go to sandyboyproductions.com. Friends, I will be in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been told I say that wrong. The weekend of June 10th, June 11th, that's next weekend, for the Made to Move race. I'm doing the 5K. They have a 10K and a half marathon as well. And we have an event called Made to Inspire, where I will be speaking with the founder of Fellow Flowers, Mel Charbonneau, and the founder of Black Girls Run, Tony Carey. Going to be a great conversation. We'd love to have you join us. Info to get registered for that event and the race will be at sandyboyproductions.com in the show notes of this episode. You can register for that race using the code Lindsay10 for 10% off your registration. All right, friends, we are so happy to have you here, and we will see you next week. Have a great Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And as always, I will see you next Friday.